Broke Americans who may need to get married for the rice, even as six-figure earners. While that is my attempt at some humor, this is actually serious business. People in America are struggling financially, even if they are high earners. Some may need your help, and I'm not talking about giving them handouts. Some people could benefit from following your example of frugalness, especially those who are overextending themselves with expensive purchases they don't need. I realize this isn't everyone. Some people have actually fallen on hard times, and my heart goes out to them. I'm sensitive to the struggle that some Americans face in their lives. It is a cruel world out there. I read an interesting article today on Yahoo Finance, put out by MoneyWise and written by Visesh Razinghani, titled, Dave Ramsey shares his definition of being broke in America. Would you be failing financially in his eyes? In this article, the author shared Dave Ramsey's definition of being broke. He said, "Your income doesn't determine your wealth." I'll share a quote from Dave Ramsey. He said, "The bottom line is your income doesn't determine your wealth, because if you make $200,000 a year and you owe $300,000 on your cars and your student loans and your other stuff, and you can barely pay your bills, you're broke. You just make a lot of money and you're a broke person." He then said, when you're not broke, you have that income coming in, and there's more and more and more of that income available for you to do future investing, to do generosity, to think longer term than just, oh God, I gotta pay a bill. Here are my thoughts. During my life, I have known people who earned a lot of money who barely survived paycheck to paycheck because their lifestyle was so lavish. Some barely made it between payroll cycles because of all the bills. Some of these people had multiple homes, multiple vehicles, boats, RVs, and off-road vehicles. Not only did they need to service the mortgages and the vehicle loans, they also had to pay for the insurance, utilities, and maintenance for the homes, and insurance, fuel, and maintenance for the vehicles, boats, RVs, and off-road vehicles. After a while, their stuff owned them. They never really owned any of this stuff. The bank owned it, and they were simply servicing the debt, which became a huge undertaking. Lifestyle creep gets out of hand for some individuals here in America. Do any of you remember when Lisa Lopez burned down Andre Rison's house in 1994? His house was in a gated neighborhood in Alpharetta, Georgia. I knew a guy who lived in that same neighborhood. He wasn't quite making $500,000 per year, but pretty close to it, which wasn't bad for that era. But he chose to live in this expensive gated neighborhood, and he had a big mansion, he had expensive cars, and he sent his kids to private schools. He was barely able to pay his bills with his salary, and it got even worse when some restructuring happened at his company and his income started to drop. His stuff owned him. He was barely home enough to enjoy that big mansion because he was always working. Just yesterday, I was talking with someone who was telling me he went to a party with a big mansion on the water, and everyone was told to bring lawn chairs because the house had no furniture. That is one of the weirdest things I've ever heard. I thought it was pretty bad when a contractor told me a story in the past about a mansion that needed some work. He got there, and a single guy lived in that big home, and all he had was a sofa and a television set. The rest of the house was empty. I guess he must have just slept on the sofa in the living room. Now, I don't know if the guy couldn't afford to buy furniture because he had overextended himself with the purchase of the house, or perhaps he didn't plan to live there very long and he didn't want to invest in furniture. There are definitely people in America, though, who are house poor. I read some of the comments beneath this article. I'll share some of them with you. The first commenter said, if you make over $100,000 and you spend over $100,000, you need to have your head examined because you have serious issues. Spend less and stop trying to show off. No one cares. Literally, no one cares what car you drive or clothes you wear. Debt is a huge issue, but mostly self-inflicted. Another commenter said, according to Dave, the borrower is always a slave to the lender. Some people prefer to remain a slave to the lender, no matter how much you try to save them from the debt, because they have come to believe that being in debt should be a natural way of life. Your finances are a reflection of your character and personality. Money does not lie about who you are. It tells us everything we need to know about you. The last comment that I'll share with you came from someone who said, most of the U.S. public has the reading comprehension of a fifth grader. Maintaining their own finances and spending less than they earn is simply beyond many of them, unfortunately. It doesn't matter how much they earn because the outcome is always the same. They buy cars they can't afford, put everything on credit cards without paying it off, and then spend $8 to $10 every morning for coffee. And those are the thrifty folks who don't owe tens of thousands of dollars for student loans or have a mortgage that eats up nearly half their income. Now, I read another interesting article today. This one was on yahoo.com, put out by USA Today, and written by Renita Walker, titled, "We were told college would make life better. I'll never be able to retire because of it." This is an opinion piece written by a woman who has worked 2 jobs her entire life. She previously worked as an administrative assistant and as a florist. She is 60 years old and still works 2 jobs. Now, she is a health administrator and a host at a diner. She is still paying off her student debt. In the article, she cites some data which indicates the number of adults age 60 or older with student loan debt has grown 6-fold over the past 2 decades, and the amount owed has multiplied nearly 20 times. This is according to the National Consumer Law Center and the New America Foundation. Now, here was the saddest part of this article. She said her initial student loan of $80,000 has ballooned to more than $200,000 today, thanks to 20 years of interest that compounds at a high rate. She is accruing $1,100 of interest each month. Here are my thoughts. My heart goes out to this woman and her family. This has to be a tough spot to be in. You definitely don't want this type of debt near retirement age. I really hope she is healthy enough to keep working. If I were in her situation, which thankfully I'm not, I would delay Social Security until age 70 so that I could get the largest check for life. I'd also look for ways to reduce my cost of living so that I could free up cash to make extra student loan payments to pay down the debt. I hope she can get a handle on this debt as soon as possible. Now, some of you might be wondering the same thing I was wondering when I first started reading this article. Why didn't this woman apply for Biden's SAVE plan, which can reduce student loan payments based on your income level and family size? Well, the woman said her loans are so old they are ineligible for relief programs such as the SAVE plan. I am sure this woman is not alone. There are millions of Americans with student loan debt that is unbearable. I worry that some of these people will not be able to live on their own during retirement because Social Security won't be enough to pay all their bills. Many people have no retirement savings and weren't high earners during their careers, so their Social Security checks are pretty small. I read some of the comments beneath this article. I'll share some of them with you. The first commenter said, "The writer is just another person who got conned into believing that you have to have a college education to make good money. I think the educational focus should be more towards vocational schools. That's the path I chose over 50 years ago and never looked back." The next commenter said, "Your major has a lot to do with your earning potential. My nephew got a bachelor's and master's and a doctorate in music and will likely never be able to pay off his student loans, but he loves teaching music at a university. I got an engineering degree. My bachelor's pays more than his doctorate in music." The last comment that I'll share with you came from someone who said, "You aren't going to be able to retire if you have debt. It makes it almost impossible to survive on a fixed income and almost impossible to save for retirement." Well, my friends, these commenters always have interesting things to say. What do you think about all this? Share your thoughts in the comment section below. If you enjoyed this video, consider subscribing to the channel. I want to extend a special thanks to everyone who has subscribed to this channel. I want to also thank all of my channel members. If you would like to become a channel member, there is a link in the description beneath this video. You can read more about the different membership levels. Please also check out some of the great books I suggest you consider reading in the description below. I've included Amazon affiliate links to these books. As an Amazon associate, I earn from qualifying purchases. Stay healthy and wealthy. I'll see everyone in the next video.